Welcome back. It's the Basque Country, of course, and it's stage 3. A day destined, they said, to be about a breakaway. We do have one, and it's a pretty handy-looking breakaway at that. However, the pack are chasing, led by Orica-GreenEdge for now. Are they doomed? You'll have to stay and find out. Meanwhile, Mikel Landa, the man who was busy talking himself down ahead of the Tour of the Basque Country, said wasn't really here to do much. Well, yesterday he did an awful lot, and in some grisly conditions as well. It's fun, and indeed we reignited the argument between Ede and Lastra up the road. Yes, Kai Roral and Cofidis leading the battle of the handbags at the moment. 11 kilometres to go, as you can see, yesterday, and finally the breakaways, all the breakaway riders were wound in. And it was a big tee-up. In fact, Cannondale looked extremely lively. Unfortunately, big holes knocked in all kinds of plans because of the final climb, and it was a real tough one that was mastered by Landa. Wilco Kelderman of Team LottoNL-Jumbo is on superb form, and he flew across the line in second place. And it was a Sky 1 and 3 with Sergio Henao finishing in third place. Landa, humble guy, terrific rider, as I'm sure you know, and third in the Giro. Last time by, goes well in this countryside, and of course back from illness and injury, and we're just hoping that he continues with his great success. Today, well, we didn't think yesterday would suit him. What about today? Possibly not, but you never know the way this race is panning out. One thing we're not short of is surprises. And you join us now live, 71.3 kilometres to go on the third stage of the 56th Tour of the Basque Country. 3 minutes and 35. The gap's edged out just a little bit. It had been 5 minutes. It was trimmed back to about 3:20. Orica-GreenEdge, I don't know whether they're running out of resources here, but they've done a lot of the chasing. No surprise, the reason is, of course, they've got Michael Albertini and, most importantly, Simon Gerrans amongst their number. Now, he missed out on the opening day, you remember, when Luis Leon Sanchez launched a preemptive strike, went very, very long, and in fact took the leader's jersey. Gerrans led everyone else home. It was Sanchez and Navarro across the line, and the pack was led by Gerrans. So if he went well there, you'd expect him to go well again today, but the question is, how much did yesterday take out of everybody? It was a very, very tough climb. This is Quintana. He's just working his way back in after a bike change. Nothing untoward. He wasn't. It's not that we've got any. He wasn't happy with his first steed. It's just quite simply he had a mechanical issue and decided it was quicker to change the bike, so that was done. We'll have a look at the profile of today's stage. You'll see that there are 3 climbs that come very, very late. In fact, the final one crests with just 9.1 kilometres to go, and therein lies the story of the day. You've got these 3 rat-a-tat, almost rapid gunfire climbs to take them on. Somebody's going to get wounded, you know that, as they come down off the final climb. Aspirationally, I mean. And then we've got, what, 6 kilometres to go until the line. It flattens out about 2 k's out, and in fact it's almost entirely straight after a final turn. In fact it is, with about 650 metres to go. So that's the day. Who's going to win it? Well, to be honest, it depends whether somebody has ambitions to go long, whether it's a reduced sprint, whether it's a bunch sprint. And the way it's teed up, Magnus, it can go one of a number of ways, and we thought the early break might have a chance, but it looks now that at least that scenario is within the control of the chasers.
I think you're right, looking at how the time gap has tumbled over the last number of kilometres now. It looks like, yeah, we got the these couple of climbs that we've been dealing with today. Nothing too dramatic, both in terms of length and in gradient. But certainly the final 3 climbs, they're coming relatively close to the finish. It's going to provide some opportunities for GC riders, but also throw a few spanners into the works for potential fast men.
Look at that off the Usagieta. We're on essentially the descent from that, and it's a long one. It does pitch up and down, as you can see, but they're essentially going at a reasonable pace. Since we've been on air, we've already found what 8-9 kilometres. So it's going at a fair old lick at the moment, despite the fact it possibly doesn't look too much that way. 38 kilometres of essentially a run downhill or sort of near flat. 18 kilometres of proper descending, and then 20 of sort of false flat but downhill. We go over a plateau, a flatland area through Zikunaga. Looking forward to that. We've got some amazing sights along the way. One of which, of course, today, which I can't wait. I hope it's going to be highlighted. And this is right up your street, Magnus. It's the museum to the balls of rock. Apparently, the Hali Hastona Shailes are the stone lifters.
Okay.
And they've got their own museum. So I'm hoping for a demonstration a bit later on of the lifting of those balls of rock.
I thought that was more your cup of tea, that.
Only on a Sunday. 68 kilometres remaining today. Let's do these guys the honour, shall we? We're in our breakaway. Giant Alpecin with Sam Oomen. Ooh? Well, Sam is pretty handy, and in fact he's on stellar form. He's only 20 years of age. If you actually look at his profile photo, it's probably a good job you're not looking at it right now, but Magnus is calling it up. He may well tweet his picture. He looks like he was he's lived for some time in a wind tunnel. Such as his groovy haircut, which we can't see. That's the way that these young cats quaff. But nonetheless, he was third on the Criterium International. And of the breakaway, he's the best placed of them. In fact, he's 3 minutes and 58 down overall. Everybody else 17 minutes and more. I think that was an attempt at a comfort break, and frankly, he didn't like the camera being on him. I'm not surprised. Yes, so Sam Oomen, you see what I mean about the wind tunnel thing?
Well, crosswinds.
Yeah. And Domino Gonçalves, Magnus will try and save this and tweet it if possible. Of Cairo Rural is also in the break. They've been ubiquitous and have been in every break. They've had somebody up the road every day. So Gonçalves is there, the 27-year-old. We've got Stefan De Niffel, who's a sucker for punishment because he was up in the break yesterday. The man from I Am Cycling, 28 years of age, the Austrian. He's 17 minutes and 43 down, 7th in the Paris-Nice, as we mentioned yesterday. Still being lent on at the moment, or at least happy to pick up the cudgel and try and beat everyone with it, is Simon Gerrans' team, Orica-GreenEdge. As you can see, they're engaged in the chase. Nobody in the break, of course, but they have an interest in closing it down. Blail Kadri is also in the break from AG Tour Le Mondial. They have the brown shorts. Now, Blail Kadri, do you remember that spectacular win at the Roma Maxima? An event which sadly is no longer part of the calendar because the people of Rome don't want it. Can you believe that? You know, you finish in front of the Roman circus and it all looked very grand and spectacular. Personally, I think that's where the Giro d'Italia should finish every single year. But the people of Rome don't want it.
Well,
why don't they want it?
That's a good question.
They said it's too much bother. It's as simple as that. Well,
they're clearly not into their bike riding, are they?
They're not. Well, here's Blail Kadri, the boy who actually won at the Roma Maxima in 2013, I think it was. I was there. And I remember the pack coming across the line, no radios that day, and other celebrations going on, thinking they'd won it, but Blail Kadri had already delivered. He was up the road and won by quite a margin, and he did the same deal, you may remember, on the Tour de France, stage 8 from a break 2 years ago, and it was a pretty handy day that. So he's a great breakaway man, Blail Kadri, and he's here again. Yeah,
he's certainly one of those guys that picks an opportunity and manages to convert quite a few of them, to be fair.
I think he's probably a sniper rather than a scattergun approach. Sniper rather than a blunderbust. He picks his days. Has he picked this one? And has he picked a good one?
Well, I think that's a good question. Right now, I feel that there's an awful lot more happening up in the front of the bunch that's going to cause some issues with him. That's Peter Stettiner.
Nice enough smile by Peter Stettiner, and he's clearly sorted out his teeth whitening. Good for him. Daniel Tekle-Hamanot, the Eritrean, is in the break as well. He of the polka dot jersey, which set Eritrea absolutely on fire. They loved the fact that he was in the polka dots in the Tour last year. Top 10 into Gap, and that was a day pretty much like today, really, with the climbs at the end, albeit much bigger than we're dealing with. Yesterday, Magnus, the climb described as punchy, but it was more than that. It actually held many an ambition below the waterline, didn't it? Because it was such a tough climb to finish the day off.
Yeah, it definitely it was a difficult day, no doubt about that one. I'm just thinking, wasn't it Peter Stettner who crashed badly here last year?
You know what? I'm going to have to spool back my my fading memory and have a think about that. But it's frankly, with the weather variations that you get here, it's always a dangerous race to actually take on, and especially with some of the technical descents that we have seen. You wanted to say something else?
No, I'm just thinking it was that crash that happened going around the corner, last corner, and the whole bunch of guys went into these metal bollards or whatever it was.
Not nice. Well, we've seen plenty of that. What we're seeing right now, Magnus, as well, is that the brake is starting to extend itself, stretch its legs with 66 to go. Is this because they believe it's well within range and doable? The pack, I mean. The peloton.
Well, I think the pack are still sort of sorting themselves out. I mean, clearly the Orica riders have decided that they're gonna continue working on this one, and they want to try and set it up for a finish for probably Simon Gerrans more than anyone else, to be perfectly honest. But at points, you know, the guys kind of tend to settle down a little bit, work out, get some food, get some relieve some jerseys, and so on and so on, and that tends to sort of slow the bunch down a bit. And also there's negotiations going on within the peloton, trying to get more teams to come up and give them a hand, so that they're not wasting every rider all the time, and so on.
The Sky, yesterday's winner, Mikel Landa. Well, he came here off the back of injury and illness and was sort of launching his season. In fact, he was telling everybody, excuse me, that frankly it really wasn't for him, this race. It was just a question of measuring his form. Well, yesterday he hit form, an absolute golden thread of it, and in fact he wears the golden jersey, which we're supposed to call it. It's yellow and blue. That's another race owns the yellow jersey name, but nonetheless, if I call it yellow, please don't tell them. He's in the golden leader's jersey anyway. And by rights, Mikel Landa, he looks so strong, Magnus.
Yeah, he definitely looked very strong yesterday. You know, he rode that very smart as well, very controlled all the way to the top. So, but you'd expect nothing less from a man of that caliber.
So Sam Oomen in the break, thanks to Peter van der Veen. He's in the break. He's only 20. This guy has shaken quite a few trees, and quite a bit of fruit has fallen out.
Yeah,
he's had some success.
He's had some success. That's fair to say. Yeah, definitely.
Only 20 years of age. He was 8th in the Tour de l'Ain. He was runner-up in the Savoie. He was 4th in the Tour de l'Avenir. This guy is going brilliantly at the moment. Junior races as well, mega titles he's picked up, and 3rd in the Criterium International. He's not messing around.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. You know, quality bike riders, no doubt about that.
Who else is tickling your fancy from this breakaway?
I think it's more going to be a question of who's got something left in their legs, and who's invested an awful lot of energy into this, and you know what the bunch decides to do as well. So a breakaway is never really an exact science. You can have the strongest rider in the bunch or in the breakaway do all the work, and then you know, not have anything left for the end. If you're feeling like you're slightly sort of on the back foot in the breakaway, you tend to ride it a bit smarter and save the energy and do the right things at the right time.
The way this stage pans out, though, Magnus, with 3 punishing climbs right at the very last. In fact, we've only got 33 Ks to go when we take on those final climbs. Have they got a chance? They're going back up to 4-minute mark here with 62.7 to go. Tekla Hamanot last year set Eritrea alight, didn't he, with getting into the polka dot jersey. It was a nation at peace with itself, and in fact full of joy that the Tickler had done a job for them.
Yeah, definitely was. There's a couple of images of Ivan Basso there. He just retired and now obviously being the director for Tinkoff. But yeah, Tekla Hamanot did an amazing ride last year. Actually had a very good season altogether, and obviously the whole country got behind him, and rightly so. I think what he's done is fantastic.
Well, they had to close the airport when he flew back because there were, I think, 25,000 people turned up to welcome him home. They'll probably do the same if he goes well today, quite frankly. Let's see. Welcome back. Chase still on, 3 minutes to 45. It's sort of holding for the time being because we've still got these 3 peaks to come. We decided to check out the injury list that Peter Stettiner sustained last year when he was riding for BMC. These days, of course, he's changed his team. He's with Trek-Segafredo. It was a horrendous accident, actually, wasn't it, involving those barriers?
Yeah, it certainly was a very hard crash, Daddy. Quite a number of riders, around about a dozen guys that went down in that final corner. But Peter effectively broke his right tibia, his patella, and 4 ribs in that crash that he sustained, and effectively had his whole of last season written off.
Good to see him back and smiling then.
It is.
Happy to be on the bike, and it's great that Trek-Segafredo showed some faith in his talents, which we know are good.
Well, he's definitely a very good bike rider, and it's nice to see that he's got a team to ride for and try and get back to his previous level again.
Talking about riding, the sun has come out, and it's always nice to have a bit of warmth upon your back. We do switch around all over the place today, so the light breeze that's coming in from a northwesterly direction is not going to hamper them too much, especially with all this tree cover. Just back and having a chat. Omar Freire with Dimension Data. Couldn't see if the Silver Fox, also known as the Badger, or occasionally Brian Smith, is in the car. I didn't see if Brian was there. I'm not sure whether he's on site or not.
I don't actually know either.
No, I know that I haven't been bought a beer by him this last week, but that's nothing new. Yes, the last time I saw him open his wallet, a bat flew out. 58.4 kilometres to go and 3 minutes and 44. That's unkind, sorry, Brian. And still, they push on. And, well, the tickler is up here. There he is, dead centre of these 5 brave souls. We've spoken about Sam Oman. We've spoken about Tekla Hamanot of formerly Quebec. In fact, I think he's still got his Quebec rain jacket on from last year. Dimension Data it is, of course, this year. And Spring Blossom still suggesting itself high up here in the Highlands, although, well, Middle Highlands, rolling countryside of the Basque country. You don't get alpine peaks here, but I think it's all the better for that, Magnus. It's a beautiful part of the world, isn't it?
It certainly is, but a very hard place to ride a bike as well. You never really find an awful lot of flat road around this part of the world. It's usually uphill, downhill, or you turn.
As you know, Magnus, what you do find a lot of here are casseroles.
Oh, right.
It's stewed anything. It's almost like, look, I'm going to be out all day in the rain. What I want when I come home is stew and dumplings. It's as simple as that. And don't mind if it's pigeon, just not badger. Back to Brian again. But yes, casseroles in the Basque country, lots of them. Sorry, Max. 57.4 kilometres remaining, and still no help for Orica-GreenEdge. Oh, look. Oh, bless them. Somebody actually tweeted and said, what's with the miscoloured Union Jacks? That's the flag of the Basque country, and it's got nothing to do with the Union Jack. There we are. And before anyone says it's a Union flag, it's not. Look it up. So, yeah, nice to see that they give the kids the day off here. They've suffered quite a bit in this part of the world with the economic crisis. As you've seen, there isn't a great deal of employment opportunities, it looks like, apart from agriculture and indeed stone. We've seen a lot of cutting of the blocks.
It's that for the
yeah, exactly. And in fact, the games they play here generally involve lifting stones as well. And so we're looking forward. I'm going to try and say this again. The Harry Haston Zeiles. Put that all together and it means stone lifters. It's a big sport in this part of the world. Colin Bryce, of course, who does our world's strongest man coverage.
He went on a training camp there.
He'd be right at home here, absolutely. Obviously, lift a few stones, have a nice casserole. 3 minutes and 46 kilometres sorry, is the gap at the moment with 56.4 Ks to go. Magnus has just left. I think he's buying coffee. Oh, hello, mate. So, what about these climbs? It's a big approach to the first one. Still, we've got about 20 kilometres of this sort of rolling flat. Do you feel that now that Trek are joining the fun, Sky are close at hand, and of course, great Alberto Contador is also part of proceedings here. He's not going to be featuring when it comes to a sprint, but he's been testing himself, Magnus, again and again. Wants to stay safe naturally, so his team are riding on. How have you felt that Contador has been looking, despite the fact it's early season and he's clearly testing himself?
Well, he's looking slightly hesitant in this race, but whether that's just a question of trying to check out his rivals and letting them show their cards first, I don't know. But I think he's building up towards obviously bigger goals later on in the season, and if you want to do a Tour de France and a Vuelta and do them really well, you got to be racing at this time of the year. There's no doubt about that. But there's also a question of how good a form do you build up to? How do you sort of set up a season? Do you want a really big early season peak, then try and come back off that one and build up again for the Tour, or do you just kind of progressively build up higher and higher and higher until you get to the Tour de France? So I don't know how much we can read into to Alberto's current form, current state of mind. We know that he's an incredible bike racer and usually always goes on the attack as well. So this may be just something to kind of throw his competitors a bit as well. That was the long answer, by the way.
No, good. I'm pleased with it. Contador is one of these guys who, when he hits his form, generally tends to glide down off it. He's not a peaky form man. Once he gets up there, he usually kind of stays there throughout the season. And he's been saying how good his legs are this year. He didn't have the backup team-wise in Catalonia. I don't know whether any alarm bells have gone off there or whether he was busy throwing his shredded wheat around at the breakfast table. But he's got a better team around him this time by, and he is, of course, amongst the favourites to do well here, and it sort of suits him, the course, as Tekla Hamanut just disrobes and shows his new Dimension Data livery. I think he's going to deliver this one to the car. It's brightening, and that's good.
Yeah, it is definitely good, and obviously they're getting ready to do the last couple of peaks here, and with that they're certainly going to need to start really racing their bikes, and you don't want any extra kit and clothing on at that point, because
well, they've had a big recovery period off that last climb, to be honest, Magnus, and I'm just wondering whether that's going to put some strength in the legs of the breakaway to take on these last three tests.
Potentially, yeah. They certainly won't spend too much energy coming off the previous peak, and although it's not a particularly fast descent, and certainly not one where you sit and coast for 20 kilometers, but and you still have to be on the pedals effectively. But with that, yeah.
So we'll see. 3 minutes, so it's sort of holding just past the 3.5 minute mark with 53 to go. We'll take a break. Welcome back. Well, they're rolling with it, as you can see. Skies kind of grey today, but with the sun starting to break through and suggest itself. About 14 Celsius, a little bit higher than that in out of what is a light breeze northwesterly. Nothing too serious, and in fact shouldn't have too much of an impact wind-wise. What about the breakaway? Well, it's a proper one with Balkadri of AG Tour La Mondiale up the road with Stefan De Neffel again from I Am Cycling. He was up there yesterday. Tekla Hamanot from Dimension Data is also there. He of the polka dot jersey on a number of days in last year's Tour. Sam Oman of Team Giant Alpecin, youngster with a massive future, just going very, very well indeed. And Domingos Gonçalves of Caio Rural. So a 5-man break for the time being. And as you can see, the gap is starting to come down. Well, the gap between the peloton and the breakaway has lost about 20 seconds in quite short order. And it's time for those who've got an option on the day, like Steve Cummings. He would be a long long attack, I think it's fair to say. If Steve was going to make it, it would be from some distance, but then again, he's done that in the past, so don't discount it. Paulo Bilbao is a quick man. He's also one of those who can go long. It'll certainly be a late attack from him. If he went, it would probably be on, to my mind anyway, for Bilbao, it would be on the final climb, but Cummings, you wait for the penultimate climb, because it's a long descent off it, which with that very short, sharp, maxing at 8.9% final peak, and then a long run in of 6Ks. That sort of got Steve Cummings written all over it, if he's up for it today, and by the look of him, he might well be.
Well, you never really know with Steve Cummings, because he's one of these guys that tend to sit very much down the back of the bunch for the majority of the time, and then all of a sudden you find him up near the front, and usually off the front at that point in a breakaway. So it's difficult to read in terms of how it's actually going. But there you go. There's the overall standings.
This is how we stand, with Landa leading by a solitary second from Wilco Kelderman. It's as you finished yesterday, essentially. Henao 5 seconds down. Sammy Sanchez, Alberto Contador in 5th place. If you roll through, Thibaut Pinot looking great. Costa, Quintana, Jessink. Reichenbach yesterday, according to the data on the final climb, took that climb faster than anybody. There we go. So Sebastian Reichenbach is looking very, very strong. And thanks to Tim Bonville-Gin, or Gin, for sending me the data from yesterday. So he had a good climb. Tim Barthorpe has just sent me a picture of a badger casserole. If you're squeamish, don't look at it. But if you like your casseroles and you like your badgers, then have a look. Apparently it's not a great meat. I know that from a roadkill expert. Basically somebody who likes free food. Yeah, he tried it once, said it wasn't very nice, and I've never cared to do so myself. Vasyl Kirienka, hungry for success. See what I did there? He's driving on Team Sky as we stand, because the leader is Mikel Landa. Sergio Henao, of course, also punchy, but you're going to have to go. There's that long route home of 6.6 Ks. It's going to feel long on the flat. Why not somebody like Kirienka to spark it up? He'd have to still be at hand, and having saved himself in the mountains, and frankly, I think he's going to be called on to do just that. But Trek are up for this, as well as Orica-GreenEdge. Plenty of teams with options today, and it's almost that moment where I'm going to ask Magnus what he thinks. I'm going to ask him for a favourite, and then I'm going to ask him for a side bet. Yeah. Of course, Magnus has a big cobble at home from the Paris-Roubaix. This weekend, Eurosport's coverage of the Paris-Roubaix begins early. 9:15 in the morning UK time, 10:15 Central European time. It's going to be epic. We know that. Hope you can join us for it. What a special day. Paris-Roubaix. Winning that must feel really rather good.
Well, it's a childhood dream, isn't it? So, well, it certainly was for me anyway. So, yeah, I don't think it's difficult to put words to it, to be honest.
Yeah, but believe me, all you have to do is say Paris-Roubaix, and Magnus bursts into a huge grin. And, you know, so much so you can almost see his thought processes. His grin is that wide. 48.8 Ks to go, just over 3 minutes, and it looks like this break has had it, unless they've got something left in the legs, because the determination of the chase down is there for us all to see, Magnus. You see the hillsides that we're going to be dealing with, some of which will have nasty kicks, but I believe it's going to come back together. So, how's the scenario going to pan out? We were going to ask you not only your favourite for today, but also a little side bet. Who are you going for?
I am going for Simon Gerrans from Orica. That, I think that's why we find Orica-GreenEdge up there working for and trying to bring this group back. And I think, but from what we saw stage one, he was clearly the fastest man in the bunch. So yeah, that's my bet.
And your side bet?
Ooh, they're always difficult, those side bets.
Get on with it. I'm going to go for Fabio Feline because I think that's why Trek have suddenly joined the chase as well. So it might well be we get 1 and 2 today, in which case it all comes down to the order home as to who buys the barbecue chorizo tonight. As a side bet today, do you know what? I'm going to go for somebody who I think will have a push very, 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 very late. I know it's not much of a side bet, but I'd like to see Steve Cummings have a go.
Okay.
What about you?
That was, well, that really wasn't much of a side bet, to be fair.
Go on then.
I am going to go with.
Oh, do you know
Porsche Van der Zande.
Oh, that's not much of a side bet either. But
Well,
anyway,
yeah, I'm just following trailer here.
Yeah, I also think Bilbao will go well for Caja Rural. They don't have too many options when it comes to the entire race, but Bilbao is a quick man. He's also feisty, and one suspects he knows these roads. And teams like Caja Rural have got the benefit of, frankly, home advantage of just mapping everything out. Now these guys look like they're just labouring ever so slightly, and we're now underneath the 3-minute mark for the first time for quite some time. They were up and in the break, and in fact they were more than 3 minutes clear when we hit the 30 k's done, 30 k's completed with still 160 or so to do. And they put a fair amount of effort into the day, so credit to them. But by their demeanour, Magnus, do you think that they already think that this may have been a task too far?
No, you never back off, and you never start thinking about this. We're done here, because anything can happen at any point in a bike race. And if there's a bit of a, should we call it, difficulties in communications between the riders in the bunch, then all of a sudden they can just basically stop riding. If Orica doesn't get the help that they want from a couple of the other teams, then they stop racing, and all of a sudden they've gained another 1.5 2 minutes, and at which point this becomes dangerous again. You never know. It crashed off one of the big descents here with one of the favourites. That could potentially slow everything down as well. So as soon as you get into a breakaway, you just got one thing in mind, and that's making the finish line ahead of the bunch. And
well, it does happen, doesn't it? And but then again, hearts are often broken. You can see that Tinkoff are coming to the fore right now. It's not that they don't like the pace, it's because we're about to make a transition, and they want to be in a safe place. And here it is, that transition. So all right, maybe onto another highway, but a nasty corner nonetheless. They want to look after their principal, who of course is Alberto Contador. The next intermediate sprint will be coming up at 37 marker in 9 k's time, and then we start our ascent of the Aritxulegi. This is a category 2 climb, and it's no laugh. Its average is 7.48, but it's reasonably long for a climb here in the Basque Country. 4.4 kilometres in length. It maxes out at 9 in the midsection, and then flattens out ever so slightly, about 6% towards the top. But I think that it's not on this climb we're going to see some action. It's on the next one, the Agina, and we don't start the run into the Agina until 25 k's out, but it's all about to start happening, Magnus. I think that's the reason why the teams are starting to get a little bit edgy at the moment. They all want to be together, have a chat about how they're going to approach this, and clearly they're getting into colour order. Yeah,
they're definitely. Well, when you're saying colour order, it's everyone wants to be getting near to each other so they can help each other out and make sure that they can pull the team leader into this sort of difficult section. There's quite a selective section of the race coming up now as well with these climbs. So of course you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up in the best possible way, and I think the pressure is likely to start increasing as well. A few guys now sort of I wouldn't say on the back foot from yesterday, but certainly lost a little bit of time, and with that, we're going to see a few guys going on the move relatively early on, I think.
That's Dario Cataldo wearing the blue intermediate sprints jersey on behalf of Nicolas Ede. Ede is in the mountains jersey by rights for Cofidis, but also leads the Meta Volantes, the intermediate sprints. Mikel Landa of Sky, by the way, is at the he's in the overall leaders jersey, the gold jersey with blue accents, and so Luis Leon Sanchez of Astana is nursing a jersey on behalf of him, which is the points jersey, the white jersey. So if there's some unfamiliar jerseys knocking around, that's the reason why. 2.5 minutes now, and the pace that's being engaged by the chase is clearly a serious one. Orica with Trek, and I think that's for our two principal choices today. For Magnus, it's Simon Gerrans. For me, it's Fabio Feline. And I think they're doomed, and I think they possibly know it as well. That young man, Sam Oman, only 20 years of age. We mentioned him at the top of the programme, and he's had a string of absolutely fantastic results, including third in the Criterium International. And so for a young man, he's functioning very well amongst some very, very experienced company. Stefan De Neffel, sucker for punishment, was in the break yesterday. And that man, Domenico Gonçalves, 16 minutes or so down. Again, Cairo Oral represented. Wilco Kelderman, our Roma Maxima winner for a couple of years ago and a Tour de France stage winner. And Tekla Hamanot, there he is, formerly of a multiple wearer of the polka dots, and generally, possibly, one of the nicest guys you're ever likely to meet. His modesty is very becoming. He's a lovely, lovely guy. Nice to see Thibaut Pinot and Sebastian Reichenbach keeping it sensible for Francis de Jeux as well. We'll take a break before all hell breaks loose here. 42.8 kilometres to go, and we're still in this what looks like it should be roads to high density areas of population, but I think they just did them the favour of building some nice communications in the hope that one day, you never know. There's some pretty magnificent cities in this part of the world, founded on the stone, the granite that graces this topography. Right now it's that hiatus time, and probably time for us to take a few of your questions. Anything other than badger casserole. I did retweet a picture up there, and some of you seem reasonably content with it, but most of you not. And discussing which wines to have with it. Yes, I can tell you that badger, I do happen to know, the overriding powerful smell is, I can't even say because it's just not nice. 41.6 kilometres from home. We've been discussing what flavour badger casserole might be. I have had some reports, but it's not very pleasant, apparently, which is why you don't see it on many menus. Moving on. Just under 2 minutes now is the gap, and with 41.3 k's remaining, I just can't see even the likes of Belkadri, who's a master of a long-distance attack, going for this today. Likewise, Tekla Hamanot. They'll probably try and contest this particular peak, and then I think they may well just say, you know what, we gave it a good go. We picked up plenty of points along the way for Meta Volantes, intermediate sprints, of course, and indeed the climbs. Job done. What do you think?
Well, I think they're going to keep on pushing for us as long as they can, and keep this going. But the question is, how hard are the guys going to go up the first of these climbs in the peloton? I think that remains to be seen, but there certainly seems to be an awful lot of keen riders in the bunch here.
You're absolutely right. The pace has absolutely picked up, Magnus, and it's not just because the road has tipped down ever so slightly. There's a lot of teams here with a massive interest in not only keeping their principals where they need to be, their main contenders overall, but there's plenty of teams here with a chance of going for it. It depends on how the day pans out. It's all to do with, we're not expecting a bunch sprint, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised if we got one in this race, Magnus. It's so hard to read because of the nature of the terrain, which is constantly rolling. We see very few flat roads. Even on the highway, it seems to be going up or down.
Well, I think this whole part of the world is like that. And there's never really any flat, and it's grippy, difficult riding, and very challenging riding because of that. So. Sometimes and a stage like this is actually more difficult than a pure alpine mountain stage where you're climbing for an hour and then you're descending for 40 minutes and then you're climbing for an hour. They tend to be easier than this sort of stuff.
That was interesting. A pennant man there was busy on a hairpin. I suspect it was actually flagged up in case it was wet. Take it in the dry, not too bad, but in the wet, off camber it was, as you saw. The helicopter just revealed the picture of it. And it's good to see that they're extraordinarily conscious of rider safety. I saw a bit earlier on as well. We had a rider, I think it may have been one of the Cannondale riders. He was at the side of the road before we came on air, and the camera dutifully stayed behind the stopped car.
It's when Nairo stopped for his bike change.
Oh, was it a bike change for Nairo? There you go. I thought it was a Cannondale rider, but there we are. So yeah, bike change for Nairo Quintana. And yeah, the motorcycle camera crew just leaving the road wide open so that others could come by. And it's nice to see that sort of safety is now very much being built into proceedings. AG Tour La Mondiale, Jan Bakelants today. Quick man for them, for the men in their brown shorts. There they are, just working their way to the fore. And he's got two men in front of him, Bakelants, the number 71 you can see. He's also got a man in the break, of course, that could prove handy if Bakelants decides to just roll off the nose and have a go for a long one. You never quite know. He's the sort of guy who's got the punch for a late attack. If it comes down to an out-and-out bunch sprint, no, but he's got the strength to go for it. AG Tour La Mondiale also have a battle plan today.
Yeah, they clearly do have a battle plan, and I think, like you said, Bakelants is definitely one of the guys that would feature in this today. It'd be interesting to see what they can come up with.
39.2 Ks to go. You're all getting pronunciation-tastic. Niall McLone. Sorry,
what?
Niall. Sorry, Niall. He's complaining about my pronunciations. And McGlone. McGlone. No idea. Anyway, I imagine because you've got a difficult surname, certainly for me. He says it's Mikel Landa, not Michael Landa. Well, actually, when I asked Mikel, he said Michael. It was absolutely fine, but there you go. He says they're difficult names to pronounce, and then there's just laziness. Niall, we're not lazy. We do ask. There are some names, however, that are quite difficult to conjure with. Louis Meintjes, there was somebody who complained about that yesterday, the fact that we dropped a K in, but in Afrikaans there is a K in there, and so that's how it's pronounced, that's how he wants it pronounced. And then there's others like Tyler Farrar. We've been calling him Farrar for ages, and in fact it's a common name, Farrar, as Farrar, but his real name is Farrar. However, we said, do you want us to call you that? And he said no, everyone knows me as Farrar. So there you go. We've had a KOM, didn't seem that much of it. In fact, it was a sprint. An intermediate sprint has been dealt with at our Meta Volante, and it looks like Bilbao has gone for it. Yeah, you can always upset somebody with a pronunciation. I imagine Backstead is probably slightly more focused in your Swedish tongue.
It's not even Backstead.
Go on then.
Because it's an air.
There you go.
A with two dots over, so it's Beckstead.
There you go. So we should be calling my mate here Beckstead. Niall. See what I mean?
Not really bothered, to be honest with you, because everyone knows me as Backstead.
All right. How would you pronounce Miles' family name? McLeod? Don't know. McGolney? He's upset. 38.2 kilometres from home, and a minute 19 is our gap. A little bit more than that. In fact, they're easing off because they've just dealt with their intermediate sprint. And so, yeah, the pack, I think, is going to have them reasonably soon. So, looking forward to that. We've got an edifice. Hang on, we've got an edifice. Time for edifice notes. No.
I missed that particular one, did you?
Yeah, it's Oertzun, apparently, or indeed one of several pronunciations, depending on whether you're Basque, Catalan visiting, or indeed Spanish. Oh, you know the worst one is Jorge, or Jorge. You know Lorenzo, the motorcyclist? They're all right, apparently, according to him, depending on your accent or indeed your region. Thanks, mate. And I said, well, which one are you? He said, I come from a crossroads of 3 different regions. Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, it is a bugbear. Although some of you are upset, including our Niall. I think Niall's had enough mentions now. But anyway, yes, it's a hard thing, frankly, but it's not laziness, I can assure you. We'll try our best. Storm clouds. Hey, hello, and a bit of shaking out as well. Storm clouds are appearing, and I don't know, just from the demeanour of Domenico Gonçalves, maybe he was just shaking out after that sprint he had to engage in. Minute 22, 83 seconds we've got right now. That's all between them. It'll start concertinaing a bit, but on the approach speed of the peloton is quite outstanding, and the reason is we're about to take on this important Aritxulegi climb. Aritxulegi. It peaks out at 28.6, but it's quite a length for our race, 4.4 kilometres, and they mean business. Lotto Soudal as well, also joining the fun for my pick today. No, it wasn't my pick, was it, Tony Gallopin?
You didn't pick him in the end.
I didn't. I thought about him earlier on, but yeah, why not our Tony? There we are. Apparently, this mountain range is called the Sleeping Man. You work it out. We'll be back in a moment. Well, it's now a minute then between our breakaway and the chasers, and this is what we're dealing with. And maxing out at 14%, this is no laugh.
No, there's a steep enough kick in it, but nothing too bad in terms of the overall difficulty of the climb. So I think, of course, it does provide a certain amount of stress element for the guys in the bunch. No one wants to be too far back. Everyone wants to try and get to the front, and with that, the pace gets driven up, and that's why we're seeing the time gap to the lead lead breakaway here is dropping so quickly.
It's hammer time. They're throwing it down. The chasers, as you can see, and in fact the peloton all together as we approach the first of 3 final climbs. This Alto de Aritxulegi. You know what? I clipped the first hurdle and I brought the rest of them down with me. Aritxulegi. Thank you. Is you know, I like Australian mountain names. It's like the big one, or Old Whitey, or whatever. It's just they keep it sensible. Nonetheless, let's have a look at well, we were going to see, unfortunately, the stage profile, or indeed this Aritxulegi climb. It maxes at 14%. It's quite unkind. It's a proper test, and I think that the breakaway is not going to be up to it. And the tickler, I'm afraid, as he's affectionately known, Tekla Hamanot, is going backwards. Blail Kadri looks like he's suffering as well. 3 push on, and Gonçalves, I think, is the most sprightly of all of them from Caia Rural. We'll see if he is. I Am Cycling, and Denefel, who was in yesterday's break, still a sucker for punishment. He's up there, and so is the young man, Sam Ullman. And the Omens are good for him. 3rd in the Criterium International. He's been in the break, in fact, just ebbing a little bit at the moment. They're holding 54 seconds, but with the power that's behind, I think they're doomed, Magnus.
I think you're right, Carlton. It's not going to take an awful long time now before the peloton really are getting close to them. Denefel is looking very strong though, but I wonder with this young man Sam Ullman how he's going to get on, because he looks very, very good indeed. He's
fantastic, isn't he? I haven't really considered him too much, although junior-wise he's been outstanding. But this year he's absolutely taken flight and is a great star in prospect, and indeed right now for Giant. This is what we're dealing with. We're at the Aritxulegi, then we go up the Agina, I like that one, and then the Piedad, the pie for your dad. Somebody's going to feast themselves on it at the very end, and then we have that little technical descent with a 6-kilometre run for home, destination Lascaux, and indeed the museums of the balls of rock. There we are. It's founded on granite, the villages around here. You can see the outcrops. You're going to have to be a bit of a hard man today, and guess what? Thought it'd be him, and he's unfortunately, Domenico Gonçalves has paid a price here of trying to stick with the young man Sam Oomen, who's gone up the road along with De Neffel of IM Cycling, who was in the break yesterday. Now, he's got to be a hard man. Well, he was 7th in the Pyrenees a couple of years ago, so we know he's got the credentials. But what about this youngster from Giant? He's having an absolutely stellar day, and they're holding a minute on a determined chase down. Yeah, definitely. Both of these guys going very well, but Oomen's certainly looking very light on the pedals, and you say capable to sort of hold that really high cadence, which very few riders are actually able to do, and certainly not doing in an efficient way. But yeah, he's looking good. De Neffel, solid man, has always been for the last number of years now been a good performer in this type of terrain. Sam Oomen looks like he's wearing his dad's Christmas socks. Could do with a slightly longer pair, I think, but anyway, yeah, they've got sort of a red accent at the top. I think they are actually Team Giant Alpecin, but they look like they've got something written on them, like number one like dad Alpecin, or something like that. or maybe Giant Alpecin. Probably more likely. 33. They don't look great. The rest of the outfit brilliant, but not the socks. Minute and 1 they've got. They've stretched the gap, Magnus, and they're continuing to do so. Now, I thought that we were going to have some real action on the penultimate climb, but these guys, they're up for it right now. Well, they're having a proper go, and if they're going to try and stay away to the finish, they can't sort of hang around and wait for the bunch to start speeding up anymore. They needed to press on, and this is exactly what they've done, hence why they've dropped a couple of riders. There we go. Well, you know, they're a team that have got plenty of options, and why not? It's all for Simon Gerrans, potentially, but they've got several. After the Yates brothers yesterday kind of disappointed, I think it's fair to say, Magnus, they've got some other options which they'd like to try out right now. Yeah, well, it didn't look fantastic yesterday, to be fair, and they lost 52 and 58 seconds, so I think they had higher hopes than that for... Magnus has just swallowed a peanut, I think, or breathes one in as we speak. Just catches up as it rolls by. Magnus has left the building a bit like Elvis. He'll be back in a moment once he's gathered himself. It's Mikel Albertini that's chasing down. Now, this is a big push because Albertini is a quick man, and I thought it'd be on the penultimate climb, but I don't think he wants this break to go too much further. So Albertini is on a mission, as you can see. And who has he drawn out in terms of response? Just looking a little bit further back, we see Christophe Riblon is also moderately interested. Astana also sending a man up the road to engage in a chase down. But this is a strong push, and I think Mikel Albertini has got a chance, even with 32.4 kilometres of this day remaining, to make something stick good and proper today. We'll see. That's Igor Anton nearest to us. Tekla Hamanot just going backwards. And there's Steve Cummings, who we expected to do something. Albertini then doing a fantastic push for Orica-GreenEdge. He's gone for it. And this, I guess, is a side hand to be able to be played by Orica-GreenEdge. Go long for Albertini, and then Gerrans as insurance for a little bit later on. So Albertini it is that grinds into the road with 45 seconds now. He's starting to close the gap. It's down back to him, I believe, not the leader's jersey. And he's such a quick man, such a powerful man as well, Magnus. If he can get over these peaks, he's got a great chance of delivering something spectacular today. Yeah, Albertini, we've got to remember, is a very solid climber indeed. He's done well in stages in Tour de Suisse, in Romandy, and well, basically around the world. So he's such a capable bike rider, and even when he goes uphill, but he's also very quick in a sprint. So if he manages to get away here now and catch up with the front guys, then he's sitting in a position where I think he would be top favourite for the stage. I think so too. It's a long way out, but because of the topography that we've got to deal with, I thought that if we were going to have a long ranger, it would be on the penultimate climb. It's happened one early, and it bodes very badly for these guys, unless, of course, this man can get something, deliver something extra. Stefan De Neffel as well, don't discount him. They're riding very well. It's 45 seconds back to the chasing Mikel Albertini. If he gets on, he might get in as well to the victory parade, as they say. This man, unfortunately, Gonçalves, I'm afraid, can't keep up. And there are others with a big option today, and they're starting to show themselves right now.
Yeah, interesting move here. Cataldo on his way up as well, and that is Navarro again having a go. He's been really busy in the first part of this race, and that's then Laurens de Plus from Ethics Quickstep as well. So Navarro has been very active already on the first stage where he finished second, but even yesterday he was quite keen on having a go.
There we are, Navarro. Laurens de Plus of Ethics Quickstep. He's a rangy character, but he can certainly go extremely well, and he's showing that right now on what is quite a nasty little test, this, but it's going to be quickly dealt with. Looking at the head of the race, it's still from our original breakaway, and still looking very good for Sam Oomen, along with De Neffel. They're holding 43 seconds. So off this, they've got a short sort of plateau on the top of this hill. You'll forgive us for calling it a hill. Then a short descent of about 3 or 4 kilometers before they take on what I thought was going to be the climb of the day, the Agina, and then it's a long descent to the short kick of the Piedad, which I'm assured by two-wheel Tonio means pity, and I guess you're going to have some possibly for the breakaway at that point. 31.1 to go, and a holding gap of 41 seconds, and there is what looks like an untroubled, at least for the time being, main body of the peloton. Some riders starting to suffer, however. I presume these two are, but they're not showing it just yet.
No, clearly going very well, still with a kilometre left to go until the top of this particular climb, and then a short little descent before they start going uphill again. So De Neffel and Oomen certainly going well, but De Neffel is having to do the majority of the work here.
He is. I'm not sure whether that's by design. Sam Oomen may well be playing a clever one here. Has he been requested to take on the lead? I'm not quite sure. Oomen's got an excuse, I guess, but not much of one. Just looking at his team for Giant Alpecin, just looking to see who is the best placed of these guys, and they've not had too much of a great run, to be honest. Let's have a look. Best placed is Warren Barguil, 26 seconds down, but Oomen is the next best placed man with 3 minutes and 58. So it's not been a fun time for Giant Alpecin. So today would be a great day for them if he can make it stick. But this is a very high quality chase group.
It is a quality chase group. It looks like Alpecin is hurting here and not actually able to do all of his turns, and Navarro's clearly waving around and telling everyone to keep on pressing on hard. But yeah, definitely look at the face of Albertini there. That's a man digging deep, very, very deep.
And you ask yourself how much this is going to knock out of him in terms of a sprint finish if he does get there, or if it all comes back together. He certainly looks like he's not kidding. That looks like a tough old test for him. It is the worst of the climbs, however, and if he gets over this, maybe he'll it's not beyond our imagination that he may well recover a little bit later on. We'll see.
Yeah, saying it's the worst of the climbs, the next one that's coming is actually very similar in length to the one that we're going up right now. So there's another difficult climb to deal with before we get to the final climb of the day.
So they've got about just looking, about 1,500 meters to go before they actually reach the categorization point, it says, but there it is. There's the banner. It looks like that to me. It's not a plateau, it's a tunnel. So I suspect we may well lose pictures because it's quite long, this one. So it's all about how they emerge from it. The clock's rolling at that climb. So they flatten out, but albeit in the dark, and that in itself, Magnus, can be a bit destabilising, especially if the tunnel's not lit.
Yeah, it certainly can be. But it's not too bad when you're riding on a flattish road. It's much worse when you're coming down it at 60-70 kilometers an hour, and then all of a sudden all the light disappears.
Last drinks, anybody? And in fact, teams offering drinks to other teams as well. They'll be expecting those favours to be returned a little bit later on. Little take of some sustenance by Cofidis Navarro, and he races on. He's having a look. He's looking into the faces of those who are around him. Doesn't want to drag Albacini back. 46 seconds. They haven't got that much of a gap on the chasers, which are being led by Trek at the moment. That's interesting. So Orica, of course, have got an excuse because Albacini is there. Lots of riders, Magnus, over the last sort of 5-10 minutes have really suffered on this climb because of the injection of pace.
Yeah, they definitely have. The pace is kept fairly high, and that's Tosh van der Zande there in red, who I was kind of thinking as a potential sprinter forward for today's finale.
It's a heartbreak for Maggie. Well, do you know any songs? Because we've got 3.5 kilometres here of terrain. They're in a tunnel. So yeah.
My singing is not all that great.
Come on, the old water bucket song, your favourite. Go for it. No, Maggie's refusing. That's a shame. There we are. We've re-emerged. It's not that big. Thank heaven for that. That Maggie didn't engage in a song, only to be shut up and Here we go then. De Mervel and Omen. Omen takes the lead on the descent. Maybe they had a little contract between them. If De Mervel is not overly confident, I think Omen's had the easiest ride here. Let's see how he goes on this descent. You don't do well in the L'Avenir, the runner-up in Savoie as well, without knowing how to climb or indeed descend. And he's in a good place at the moment. In fact, he's got 39-40 seconds. Let's see how he manages to extend this gap, if he does at all, on 4 capable riders at the moment, who are all leaning on Cataldo, who's engaging in the chase down. 36 seconds. Not sure. Let's see how it pans out. 28 Ks to go. At the bottom of the next climb, let's work it out. It's a bit of reverse maths, I'm afraid, but 4.3 kilometres in length is the next one, the Agina. It peaks at 20, so it means that when that ticker says 24.8, that's so in what, 3 kilometres time, they're going to be straight down, bouncing straight onto the next climb. It kind of tempts out a breakaway. That's what we've got, but the chase is on, and Sky have picked up the mantle.
They certainly have. They need to keep an eye on the guys that have gone out into the break here. Thinking Navarro is at 103 on GC. Cataldo's not really a worry. Albacini not really a worry. And then we got Lawrence Duclos is at about 4 minutes, so it's more Navarro that's a danger man to Mikel Landa here. So
I think so. He would have started this. Well, he did start this race as one of the favourites for Cofidis, and with no real sprint options, they are leaning on him. And Arnold Janssen was their idea before they came here. So Navarro, bit of a problem for the pack. They're clearly responding to that. 34 seconds. This duo from the original breakaway are holding station. The 20-year-old Sam Omen nearest to us, and the 28-year-old Stefan De Neffel of Austria just ahead of him for I Am Cycling. He was in the break yesterday, and so the two, very tough day yesterday, a bit more of a roller today. Heading over a dam wall, as you can see, and now finally starting to exchange duties. Maybe they're starting to believe that they've got a chance with a chase group at 36 seconds who've managed to distance the peloton. You're looking at the back of the peloton right now on this motorcycle shot, bottom left of your screen, and you can see the pace that they're going, but they're about to kick, Magnus. It's we said it's a bounce straight in. It looks like the dam wall announced it. Well, the dam wall definitely announced the next climb. I think that is it. We are now climbing up to the top of the penultimate peak of the day, and I think it's about 34 seconds down to the second group there with Albacini and Navarro. I think it's a further 30 seconds or so down to the peloton, and peloton now very much being led by Sky and policed by BMC. So Sky, of course, with the leader's jersey on the back of Mikel Landa. You can see his yellow and blue jersey, the golden jersey, in position 4. BMC also with some hopes today. Sammy Sanchez has been going well, but it's about Tinkoff and Contador, and that's the constant question, it seems. And likewise, Quintana had a bike change earlier. Both of them where they want to be at the moment. Get this amazing green to the water here. It's mountain runoff. There's a lot of limestone in the area as well, and it gives a particular hue to the water as it refracts the light. And yeah, so you get this very particular looking green. It's almost like Cayo Rural green, by the way. Sort of a deep, sort of greeny turquoise. 25 kilometres to go then. At that mark, I'm sure he nailed it on the right tree. The ticker says he's 400 metres out, but nonetheless, 32 seconds is the gap for this pairing.
Yeah, and then they're still going well, and Ullmann has now decided to really get going and put a big turn in. He's done a really quite a hard one, and Denifel is probably quite grateful for that, or maybe not, as it may be on the climb itself.
29 seconds, they're sort of holding it just now. What have they got to do here then, Magus? Get over this. It's toughest about now with around 8%. It wavers a little bit, but it's still, again, on the Basque country, this is one of the longer climbs. They are sort of short, but not very sweet at all. In fact, bitter for some. If they take this, they've got a long recovery downhill and then a last kick, which maxes at 8.9% before they run home. Can they possibly do it?
Yeah, I think there's still a possibility. It's going to depend largely on how they get over the top of this next climb. Both riders looked very capable on the descent, although very reasonably short descent. I have a feeling that the next descent is going to be the key thing.
Yeah.
If they can get to the bottom of the final climb in a good position, although it's quite a short climb, it's only 2.1 kilometers long. It averages at 8.8%, so it's a test. There's no doubt about that. And I guess it just depends on what the guys in the bunch want to do.
Clearly, they've got company here, as you can see. There's a couple of riders have now managed to bridge over from the pack, and in fact the gap is only a handful of seconds because Sky are punching on here. I think it's one of the Trek riders that's just drifted over. There's been it's a much narrower margin to the chasers. I think it's only about 5 or 6 seconds, Magnus. So it's been a good job been performed here by Sky to actually narrow this gap and neutralise the threat of Albacini along with Dupli, and particularly Navarro and Dario Cataldo up front, just ahead of them I should say, and they've got company as well.
Yeah, well I think the Team Sky clearly thought that Navarro is actually a danger man.
Cummings, who's just come through and out of the pack on the back of latching onto the back of this group, which is now rapidly reforming as 7 riders. If it is, we'll try and get a little bit nearer. Steve Cummings, he may have timed it absolutely brilliantly, but he's got some work to do, that is for sure. We'll try and pick out that group for you as best we can in a few moments' time.
That is
right at the very back of that
Pierre
group.
Roland and one of the Yates brothers, I believe that might be.
Well, that would be very, very handy, and making amends for yesterday. I'm always loath to call which Yates brother it is. They need to start.
Hence why I called them Yates, one of the Yates brothers.
I know. I suffered the same thing yesterday. I don't know if it's Adam or Simon. Somebody will tell me. But if I had to guess, I'd say it was Adam today. 29 seconds is the gap. And there it is. It's a tenuous one, is it not, further back? And I still can't see whether that was Cummings, but if it was, he's failed to bridge just for the time being. In fact, Astana and the wearer of the blue jersey is within this group as well. So there's been a couple have bridged over to it to try and have some fun. And in fact, it's an AG Tour Le Mondial rider, not from Dimension Data, so it's certainly not Steve Cummings. Apologies for that. Maybe the aforementioned Jan Bakelant's having a go, but 24.1 kilometres to go. A lot of grind still to be made here for this day, but still holding out Ullmann and indeed De Neffel.
Well, Albacini did his work there and just went as hard as he could for as long as possible, and now it's down to his teammate here to try and pick this up.
There we go, they push into the curve, as you can see. Well, both Adam and Simon Yates disappointed yesterday by their own admission. Today, clearly minded to not only make amends, but maybe bid for glory and reignite their challenge.
Well, why not? This no point in sitting there waiting for it, is there? But they got also now a big task in trying to pull this away. And when we're looking at the lineup of riders looking after our race leader Mikel Landa, I think it's going to be a tough task.
Tough task indeed. You're looking at the peloton right now, and in fact there's a bit of a look back. I think it's Kirienka that's just on the front leading the chase. They're 39 seconds down still on this duo. Now what can Sam Oomen do on this next descent? He was clearly the most comfortable on the descent, and I think Stefan de Neffel happy to do the grind up the incline for then him to take over duties on the descent. Haven't called too many of those bikes out of the gap just for the time being. Here comes the flashing lights on the security bike. I think he may well do. It's a tight gap here. They're going to go over the top, and you're going to see plenty of motorcycles being called through, directed by them at a safe moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure being put on here now by certainly by in the peloton to try and bring back Navarro, and obviously now one of the Yates brothers, although we don't quite know which one. I think that was Simon, personally. I'll pick Simon, you pick Adam, and then we'll see. One of us will be right.
I think you might be right. I hadn't seen the face fungus until we got there, but you never know. Until his mum writes in. She usually does, actually, especially if why would she not be watching Eurosport? De Neffel and Oomen then. Still with a gap, but it's a closing one, and with the quality of those who are in this push behind, I think it's going to be from one of these two groups that today's winner comes from. There's a big shout, but honestly we thought that it would be a push on this particular climb, and it may well be the decisive one, albeit that the action has happened a little bit earlier. Well, there we are. They're regrouping themselves. At least they're working together. It's Navarro now who's calling for a little bit of help, and he wants Dupuis to do something. But here come the pack as well, and the incline is getting worse. 9% at the max, and it comes right at the very last. We're nearly there, Magnus. Once we get over the top, there's a long descent. It may well be decided on this very descent, as you quite rightly said.
It may very well be, and I certainly think that's going to be the difference. Who is where when we get to the bottom of this and start climbing the final climb. But clearly Team Sky have spotted the danger in the riders that have just gone up the road here, and with that they've struck out to sort of bring everything back. Even a rider like Pierre Rolland, who's in that group up there now, he's only at 1 minute and 17 seconds. So there's going to be quite a few sort of riders who are feeling that this is a dangerous move, and no more so than Team Sky, who's now put Kirienka on the front to drive this back. But looking at Deniful and Oomen, they're still doing a great job, although they're not now all that far ahead. And I don't think there's any 19 seconds in this between Deniful and the group with Navarro, Yates and Rolland.
Good work by this duo. They're only holding 13 seconds, however, I'm afraid, and they are now looking over their shoulder. It's started to go just a little bit nervy, I'm afraid, and quite right too, because they realise the firepower that's behind them. They're going to just about make it over the top, Magnus. They've got, in fact, I'm wondering whether they will. It's they've still got another 2 kilometres, and it's De Neffel that is clearly happier in the climb than Sam Oomen, who's a great descender, that takes up the duty. It is Simon with his little bit of face fungus, apparently. Pierre Rolland, Navarro also as part of this group now.
Well, I think the difference between someone like Deniful and Oomen here is a good 5-6 years worth of riding at in the pro peloton. Oomen's still very much a young man, and I think it's worth noting this guy, because
very much so. He's got a massive future, hasn't he? And he's already writing the pages of what is a significant career already before our very eyes.
Also interesting to see is that Laurens de Plus, who's in here in that front group for Ethics Quickstep, is only riding his second World Tour race here after riding Catalonia as well. He's also only 20 years old.
Do you know, I thought that was rain, but I think it's the long blonde hair of the camera person. There we are. So don't worry too much about that. I'll do the worrying for you. 21.9 K's to go. Gaps are just about out, undeclared on the switchbacks, just lost a little bit of data. But they sail into the trees, still not in leaf, which gives us a good view of it. Good as well to see Alberto Contador. Don't be surprised if he has a bit of an attack. You can see what they're thinking about one at the moment as well. I'm just trying to see who's rolling in on the left-hand side. It looks like, I said Dimension Data earlier, but well, it still looks a bit like Dimension Data. Is De Neffel, who wants to crest this climb. He'll boost himself as far as the King of the Mountains competition is concerned when he goes over it. And there it is, and a little bit of respite for him he gets right now. There is no plateau. He'll start his descent very, very early. And Oman is now part of that group in Agina. In fact, he's just been passed by the chasers, so we've got a solitary rider up front. And here comes what I believe is Alberto Contador having a little bit of a push as well. He wants a clean air. He wants his nose in the wind when he starts to descend.
Safety.
And is that Rodriguez who's also coming up alongside him? Wouldn't be surprised. Sammy Sanchez as well from BMC. Safety first, Magnus, at a moment like this. They're still testing themselves apart from anything else. They're doing it for themselves as part of the longer program, as you mentioned. 21.1 Ks from home then, so the ticker's slightly disagreeing with the map, but we are on a descent. And look at that beautiful vista as the helicopter rises up. That's what's welcoming them, save for one more kick down there, which is the Piedad, the pity, the climb of pity.
Are we going to have any pity for the riders?
Plenty after this day. Terrific.
I think this looks like an interesting descent, though. This is that's more my kind of cup of tea. This I only go uphill to actually get to go down the hill.
Yeah, whereas I just go for a cup of tea. Here we are, narrow-ish road, as you can see, cut into the hillside. They'll go around a headland in a moment. Some focus turns as part of it. Sky doing the charge just for now. There's Landa in the leader's jersey. Look a little bit further back, Sammy Sanchez close at hand, Contador likewise. There are the leaders, as far as I can gather. In fact, we've still got our man De Neffel up the road. Can't see him, however, at the moment. It's declared as 22. I think he may well have been caught just at that point. Maybe he's just bedded in as part of this group right now. We won't know until we get down there and have a look. There's the terrain they're dealing with. Absolutely beautiful, as you can see. This is going to be quite a busy finish.
No doubt about that. We've seen a couple of interesting finishes so far in this race, and today I don't think it's going to be any different. We've got this group here now clearly going to want to press on. There's some GC aspirations that can be put back into place again if they were to hold this all the way into the finish, because even a 20-30 second time advantage would mean that both Simon Yates and someone like Navarro at a minute 3, Pierre Rolland at a minute 17, all of a sudden they're back in contention again.
De Neffel was indeed caught by the group, but he's here, and so is Sam Oman, who now has dealt with all the nasty climbs that he's clearly been suffering on at this level. Amongst this kind of company. Just
a small case of a 2k climb at 9%, but
exactly.
Apart from that, yeah.
Apart from that, real pitch, he's then got 6k's to go, and he's a decent descender. He's showing that right now because he was off the back of the chase group. They came by him, and he's actually managed to catch up on the descent, and so he's saving himself at the moment. It's not all over for the young man Oman. We'll see. Chase by Sky right now. That's Landa's yellow jersey, golden jersey, the leader's jersey here, and a gap of 27 seconds. Now again, Magnus, it almost bounces straight into the next climb. There is about 2k's, just about 2k's of flat before they take on the final test of the day, the climb of pity.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, that, and I wonder how many of the favourites actually going to try and give this a bit of a go and at least take the race to Mikel Landa, who is looking very comfortable in the leader's jersey there, with his teammates around him.
That's Henao, second place on your screen, looking at that right now, and just having a look. That's Sergio Henao with Sebastian, in fact, just a little bit further ahead of him, leading Sergio Henao down. Now, he's quite explosive, Sergio Henao. Said this yesterday, finished third behind the surprise winner yesterday, Mikel Landa, his teammate.
I wasn't that surprised.
Well, plenty of people were, including Landa himself, according to the interviews post-race. There you go. He said he just couldn't believe his legs were so good. He came into the race measuring himself, and quite frankly, everyone else now measuring themselves against Mikel Landa. Good effort by him, and a great one by these guys as well. They've still got 23, 24 seconds. It's your guess is as good as mine on this descent as the data bounces all over the place. And what a lovely piece of carpet we are racing down right now.
It's a brilliant descent, very technical, but still good road surface, so you can actually afford to take a few risks, although if you get it wrong, it tends to it certainly doesn't look all that nice off the edge there.
Talking about surprises, Magnus, it's great at this time of year when you do get these mixed races, the super elite mixed in with sort of new arrivals. Teams don't really know who to send or who would gain a lot from a race such as this, so you get a great mix, don't you, and some surprises naturally thrown up as a result.
There's always going to be surprises, and it's always nice when you see young guys like Lorenz de Plus and Omen coming into the professional top end of professional cycling, effectively, and really showing themselves and taking the race on. Where
was your breakout performance, where everyone went hello?
I think that was in Grand Prix d'Isbergues in France.
It has to happen for every rider, and you never quite know when it's going to be. And so why not the likes of Sam Omen today? We've certainly been talking about him a lot. 16.3 kilometres from home. They will start to climb their final test. Let's have a look how long it is. 2.1 kilometres. So when that ticker says 11, so in 5k's time, they come down here. They've got around about 2 kilometres before they actually then start the next climb when they get to the bottom of this descent. That's potentially a catch zone with only 19 seconds between the chasers and the breakaway.
Very much so, and that's going to be the key if they can all the breakaway, if they continue to work hard together and really keep on pressing on, or whether they start thinking about am I going to be okay going up this climb? Am I going to sit back here and try and save myself a bit so that I potentially can stay with the front group? Or there's so many equations going on in all these riders' heads, and every single one of them are trying to do the one that's going to work out the best for them. But you need a certain amount of cohesion between these different riders from different teams and different nations and so on to make it work.
Well, Catalda's having a good old go. As you can see, I still don't know whether this group are going to make it, because Sky are so determined to push on. You can see some other teams as well who've missed out. Essentially, they want to play a part. Tinkoff trying to stay safe. Pierre Roland having made it into the breakaway. Didn't get a double check on him just then. Is he still there?
Yeah, he's still in there, definitely.
Sorry, I guess
to me, a large part of this final is going to be who's left out of the fast men in the bunch here. Clearly, Team Sky are going to keep on pressing on to make sure that Simon Yates and Daniel Navarro and also Pierre Roland are not getting too big an advantage, because they pose a threat overall. But at the same time, if there is a team still in there who's got a fast man, then they're going to want to start pressing on the flat here as well.
Do you know what? You know, we've been going on about, so I think it is Adam, but
according to the graphics, it's Simon. But
I think they've got it wrong. So we will have a look, but anyway, I think it's Adam. I think they've actually managed to mix themselves up as we have. But it was my first inkling, but a lot of you saying it's definitely Simon. But and in fact, listen to this: the rider in the second group is Adam Yates, according to Euskaltel Eriko in Zulia. That's race data. You work it out. One of them needs to wear a Busby. So we're heading into town, as you can see. This is your flat section before we kick up again. Nice little piazza and a carousel. There is a bit of a loop to the last run, actually. It's a bandstand. There we are. So a bit of a little later in Laska. Go and visit the Balls of Stone Museum if in the locale. It really does exist. Balls of
You
stone.
can't quite let that one go, can you?
I'm fascinated. We're going to come off this mountain and go and visit. 22 seconds, 23 now. Well, they're holding their own. .9 to go. Magnus, we're essentially now climbing.
Yeah, definitely. Just on the foot end of the final climb, but still 24 seconds though. So the guys in the breakaway are doing a good job at staying out there, putting the pressure onto the other teams. And I wonder how long time it will take before we have one of the other teams for the general classification deciding that this is actually relatively dangerous now, and start helping out a bit.
Yeah, you know, it does look like Simon.
We're at it.
No, Simon. We'll stick with you. Listen, I'm bowing to you at the moment. Nonetheless, head of the race right now. We're getting misinformation fired at us all over the place, I'm afraid. I think Simon up front and Adam at the back, in the chase for the now. 12 Ks to go, nonetheless. I'm not going to be absolutely certain until I see a number, quite frankly. But there you go. A number of you are trying to help me out with sock colours and the like, but I sort of daren't declare it just in case you're having a laugh. But yourbiketravel.com sounds like a company, so are they to be trusted? Simon Yates wears black socks and his brother white. Trouble is, you've got to see the socks. 11.9 to go, nonetheless. 16 seconds. There we are. Well, it's black socks, so there we are. We'll go with Simon then. That's contra to race radio. Can you believe it? Gosh, well, we may get misdirected. What about Pierre Roland? I've been unkind to Pierre Roland on occasion, I'm afraid. And Pierre Roland has let me down on a number of occasions. I think that I've got to say, I think that said 37 on his number plate there.
Yeah.
So that means that the socks guide was wrong. If that's the case. 9 seconds now, though, nonetheless, and 11.6 Ks to go until we get to the line. It's going to be a real festival at the line. And this bodes well for Feline with Trek-Segafredo, I think, is one of the quickest men down there. Is Gero in the pack? Is he there?
Well, that's the question. It's a very small select group here now, and it's certainly not going to get any bigger with the next part of this coming. Navarro has a go.
Navarro decides it's got to be now. If he's going to have a chance, it's got to go. And he does so. He peels away. Big response as well. Tries from Dario Cataldo. He can't quite make it happen just for now. He gets out of the saddle and tries that chase on, but can't make it stick just for now. But will he bridge? There is everybody else. That's the reason why they've decided to break down just now. No alliance amongst the breakaway. And it's a tall order to get over this peak and then sustain a gap for over 6 kilometres on the flat all the way home. I don't think he's going to make it.
Well, it's going to be a difficult one to hold on to, that's for sure. But we've seen him descend very well on the first stage, so why not give it a go here? And he's got nothing to lose, really. If he gets caught by the peloton on the final running towards the finish, then he will still have the legs to cope with just following the bunch in.
Sebastian Reichenbach is still embedded within this group for Francis de Jure. I suspect Thibaut Pinot is not that far away. In fact, just a quick flash of him. He is there. Head of the race, looking at him. He's a brave man, Navarro. Had a brave day, of course, into Marquina Chemin on the first day. Luis Leon beat him that day. He wants a stage win. It's a tall order. He's got 29 seconds on the golden jersey group as he just sails round. He's not quite peaked it just yet. He's close, though. He's very close to that motorcycle as well, as he just starts to weave ever so slightly. He's at the end of his resources, and I'm not surprised. It's a big day today, 193.5, the longest stage of the race. And despite the fact we've not had any proper Alpine climbs, as I'm sure many of you are waiting for with bated breath throughout this year on the Grand Tours. Nonetheless, a real wearing day, and the amount of effort he's put in, particularly onto the first stage, don't forget, where he was out there, wasn't he, with Luis Leon Sanchez, lost out at the very last. He was probably stung by that, Magnus, and he's been spurred into action today. We're watching a brave push here.
Well, we certainly are. He's doing a great attack and sustaining that very well indeed. So, yeah, question is, can he hold on to this, though? That is Gianluca Brambilla having a go to get himself off the front as well from the bunch. It's going to be a difficult job, though, to catch this man.
Certainly is. 10.5 kilometers to go, and it is going to be a tough. And do you know, I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think it is Adam that's there. My first instinct, before everyone started telling me the wrong things about socks and the like. Thanks for your help. I'll forget that next time. Here we are then, the roll on, and where is Pierre? Where, though, is everybody else? Sky, not that far behind. I think this is still going to come to a bunch finish because there's such a long distance off the descent. It would have to be a descent that was unlike any other if he was to put a decent cushion between himself and the chasers. It says 33 seconds. I'm not too sure, Magnus.
No, I'm not too sure what the gap is back there, but there's certainly a group of a couple of riders coming close to Daniel here on the. You can just spot them around the corner here now. There they are.
There they are indeed.
Small group.
Not that far to go. Here we are then. It's declared. He's got the KOM now. He's got to get home. So he's got this descent. And here is the push that's being made further back down. Contador very, very close at hand. Is that
Thibaut
Pinot? Yes, who's driving on. Rangy character being held at the moment by Contador, who's getting a bit of a free ride. And there's Quintana showing himself as well. A lot of the principals are here, and why not? It's time to have a go. And well, we saw Sammy Sanchez, you know, going very, very busy the other day.
He's such a good descender as well, Sammy. He is certainly one of the guys that can put a lot of pressure on. Rui Costa on his way up there as well, now on the wheel of Contador in yellow. So this is going to be an interesting one, there's no doubt about that. And those motorbikes are going to have to press on a bit because these guys are coming quickly.
They are, and Sanchez had to dab the brakes more than perhaps he'd wanted to into that curve. 16 seconds, that's all. 15 counting down, but so are the kilometers at the moment. My, once they get to the flat, and it's some way, and they're out of sight, those who are up the road as well, if only just. It's a tenuous gap, and you just feel this is going to come together for a big one.
Yeah, I think you're right that, well, when you're saying big one, it's not an awful lot left out of the bunch either, so there's a lot of riders here now keen to press on, and there are opportunities that are going to open themselves up as well. Some guys pressing on really, really hard on the descent, and Navarro, he's certainly one of them.
He most certainly is. Well, he means business, and he's trying to hide himself, taking the narrowest line through every single one of these curves. It's the shortest way home, of course, and it's in his gift to take it because he's on his own. Pennant man telling him to slow down, and he does anything but. He just charges into it. The pennant man is warning of this. An off camber, nasty. Oh, and a bit of a spill there. You see, they've put what they call cat litter down on what was an oil spill, and hence the pennant man and the whistle. You saw the white splash there where the powder is trying to dry it off. And is he clean away? Not for the time being. With 11 seconds now. It's well, it's bouncing all over the place. Thankfully, he's staying upright on the bike for now, and he's having to hold the bike as level as he possibly can in some of these very focused turns. Plenty of hairpins for him to deal with, but he's taking them just for the time being anyway. Wow, 8.2 from home.
Yeah, 8.2, 14 seconds, and the bunch are getting closer and closer to the second group on the road there with Roland in it. But it's good to see that Thibaut Pinot has finally got his descending demons sorted out.
Yes, indeed. Pierre Roland had a wobble a couple of years ago as well. You know, mind you, he's had plenty of wobbles in different departments. But yes, he seems to have got his descending head back as well. Here we are. using all of the road, and it's his to use. 19 seconds. 20. My goodness.
Yeah, I think that the bunch are definitely getting closer and closer. We have a group in between here as well, so I just wonder if this is going to be enough for him to hold on to on a 6 kilometre flat stretch of road. Well,
it's declared as the second group with 17 seconds, but the data's been a bit shaky. So we'll just see how it is. Here's your intermediate riders who are chasing him down, still including Adam Yates. And there, as you can see, Pierre Rolland is still very much part of this group, along with Cataldo. And still they ride on. And it is Tinkoff that are in charging mood. And there you see Mikel Landa wearing the leader's jersey in second position for the time being. So it's going to be, albeit a long-range push by Navarro. And it'll be a very select group. He's going to come to the flatlands, though. He's only got 21 seconds, and I don't think that's enough with the determination of the chase. And 6.3 kilometres of flat to go, and he starts it now.
Well, he starts that flat bit, yeah, at 21 seconds. That's going to be a very tall order for a lone rider to keep away, and there certainly seems to be enough riders in the bunch who are happy to keep pressing on. But so far, this quartet of riders with Rolland, Yates, De Plus and Cataldo are still holding off, but they haven't got an awful lot. Peloton is coming hard. They are coming hard, as you can see, and radioing back to base as well to ask about strategy in the run-in. Nice to see Francis Dejeux with a couple of options remaining here as well, up towards the front, but primary amongst them, of course, the man they're looking for is Thibaut Pinot, who's a very good time trialist, and they're starting to think about their positions up to, well, including that stage 6 time trial I-bar. It is a climbing time trial. We're not expecting to see time trialing bikes. They like to use road bikes with tri-bars for it, but yeah, we'll wait and see on the day. So this will be the 5Ks to go banner, albeit fluttering and almost out of vision. This man is maybe out of sight but not out of mind. They know where he is, they know what they've got to do. The pace is being injected, and it's a big call for a man to do this on his own. Yeah, it's a tall order, very, very tall order this, but he's certainly going very strongly, so they're going to have to commit to this. And it looked like on the front of the peloton there was only, I think that was Roman Kreuziger who's actually doing the work, but right now a bit of confusion as to who's going to do the work, and they can't afford to let that happen. No, they can't. If this camera just pulls out, you may well get a visual gap. There it is. The leaders group's only 20 seconds down, so the gap, I'm afraid, by Daniel Navarro to the chasers is a tenuous one, and more so than that, I think a determined push by those who have managed to save more legs than this man has will be the end of him. He checks over his shoulder nervously, knowing that that gap is closing. It certainly is closing, and of course on our road book it looks like it's completely pan flat, but it's anything but, isn't it? Anything but. Yeah, and as a result I think he may well be in a bit of bother. There's Rodriguez Perito just towards the back. Interesting as well to see Warren Barguil just keeping it sensible, albeit perhaps having suffered just a bit. There's our leader Landa embedded within this group. Robert Gesink is also there, and a move by Trek. And is it going to be a Feline day today? He's quick enough, but what has he got? Adam Yates at the front here, just going so very well today, Adam, as we come under the 4 to go. Rolland comes through, dispenses with his Briton, and they're thinking about it. Not that far now. No, Navarro's just gone through the roundabout there, so they clearly got this, got him well within their sights. 4 kilometers to go to bring back 7 seconds. That's very much possible, and the question is just what are you going to do from this moment on. Adam Yates on the radio there to talk to his team boss and his teammates as to what do I do at this point. What what's your suggestion? And then I can see whether that fits in with how I feel.
Do you know what? I wouldn't even be surprised if he wasn't pressing the button but was shouting so that he didn't have to do some work. All kinds of psychology come into a moment such as this.
Do that, Carlton, ever.
Yeah, it's very much a Backstead thing to do that. What? You don't want me to work? Oh, okay then. Yeah. Making sure everyone heard it. You probably have to say it in French and a few other languages as well to get the message across. But we will see whether he goes for it. I suspect he may well, but there's a big chase behind him. Just over 3 kilometres remaining. You're looking at the head of the race today, but 17 seconds back to the yellow jersey group, and of course those 4 bridging riders in no man's land for the time being. And they've got just 6 seconds, but it looks like they are easing. And here come the select group, let's put it that way. So it's going to be fireworks at the line, I'm afraid, for Daniel Navarro. Last roll here for Roland, and Adam Yates goes on to his back wheel. And there it is. Pierre Roland 17 down. Adam Yates in the 50s after yesterday, I'm afraid. It was a bit of disappointment. Hoped he could make a break stick today. 58 seconds down, Adam. But here we are, 2.6 kilometres from home, and effectively altogether, I know it's not quite happened just yet. Roland just goes up onto the back wheel of Danny Navarro and sails by, along with Adam Yates. Well, Adam Yates still looking sprightly, so is Roland, and not bad at a moment such as this, especially if others start to ask questions. But will they? Just trying to see who's bridging over. It's somebody from Lampre, right? Yeah, don't know who though. 2.1 kilometres to go. It's going to be tight, this. Very tight.
I think you're right on that one, and I'd be surprised if that's not Diego Ulisi coming up to them or trying to bridge across here now.
Well, let's see if it is indeed him. I don't think it's going to be Rui Costa on a day like this. He doesn't need to, especially with those who are up and at the front. As De Pluy goes for it, Navarro tries to pick up, but they're looking a little bit tired with 1,800 metres to go. Let's have a look who's behind. Well within range, I think, is the expression right now for these guys. Cannondale looking lively. Simon Clark for a quick push at the very end. He had his aero helmet on the other day. He finished 5th, don't forget, on stage 1. Can Cy Clark, who's been on stellar form, deliver? 1,400 metres to go. It flattens out after the final turn with 600 metres remaining. So it's Lotto Soudal at the moment, and just taking a few last drinks, some others mixed in. What about Sergio Henao of Katusha? He's got an option, but then again, so many others have as well. I still think Feline for Trek as they go under the Flamme Rouge. It's going to have to go early, are they? And so they do, with Katusha starting to go for it, and Cofidis engaging from distance. I don't think this is going to be allowed to happen. Oh, and look at that. That's not Steve O'Shawley, who's managed to get up to the front right now. Steve Cummings, I think, has just rolled on to the nose for Team Dimension Data, and he starts to power away. Who's got the strength to go after him?
Well, who's got the power to go there? That's the big question, but also who wants to go after him at this point?
Wow, this is going to be another amazing piece of raiding work, I think, by the Dimension Data man. He's gone very, very long, and nobody else seems minded to chase on.
No, they don't. It's gone here now, and coming up towards probably about 500 metres to go.
Wow, what an impressive piece of work. Steve Cummings is going to nick another one. He's getting brilliant at this. You kind of don't think about him for such a long time, and then he pops up and surprises everybody, breaks a few hearts. They are working for Cy Clark, and he lights it up now. Simon Clark with his aero helmet tied on the barriers, but I think Cummings is going to make it and break everyone else's heart at the line. The big man does it again. Oh, what about that? You know, never ever discount Stephen Cummings on any kind of terrain, it seems. He is a heartbreaker, and today he had the biggest heart of all when it mattered. Over 5 hours in the saddle, Dimension Data and Steve Cummings triumphant.
Fair play, Stephen Cummings. That was a perfectly timed move and fully committed as well. There was no question about looking around that. He was just going for it, and there's a bit of a hesitation there from the Lotto Soudal riders. None of them wanted to go with the Steve when he went, and
it was a long day, wasn't it? 193.5, and that's what essentially opened it up for Stephen Cummings, plus the rolling terrain at the end, I think.
Well, it's a tough stage, and that's kind of what Stephen's sort of forte is. He does climb incredibly well, and he's now found his niche where he just goes for the opportunist moves and nails them. But interesting sprint there as well. Yeah, Feline and Simon Gerrans, I think it was, coming up to nip the second or third place.
Well, he's used to breaking hearts, as we've said, even on the Grand Tour stage. What a fabulous performance. He's one of the big guys, and when he's given a big stage, he steps onto it, doesn't he?
Yeah, fair play. It's great to see a rider with that kind of confidence to actually commit to it and go for it.
Cummings takes it ahead of Simon Gerrans, Fabio Feline, Brambilla and Visconti. It was tied at the end. Cummings mugged them all, including our picks, Gerrans and Feline today. My, Steve-O's done it once more. Cy Clark was involved at the very last. Tony Galopin, Bilbao Chinetsky and Sergio Henao given the same time as many of them. But Steve-O delivers. Just rolling through some more of the finishers for you right now. Some quick men here, but none quicker when it mattered than Stephen Cummings.
No, I mean it was such a well-timed move, and when you get in those rides, it's almost impossible for the rest of the bunch to respond to it, and it just requires that commitment. One look behind him there with 50 meters to go. Yeah, I got this.
Looks like he's actually been celebrating his celebrations. Or at least practicing them. Great work. Well, Brian Smith will be absolutely delighted. He's
also
probably just
the Badger.
Yeah, or the Silver Fox. There we are. Mikel Landa still leads this race ahead of Wilco Kelderman, Sergio Henao, Sammy Sanchez, Alberto Contador, 11 seconds down. Well, a rolling day, a long day, 193.5 kilometres. A lot of racing still to be had. We head to Orio tomorrow. Sebastian Reichenbach stays there, just behind Jessing, Quintana, Rui Costa and Thibaut Pinot in 10th place. In 5th place, 6th place I should say. And Joaquim Rodriguez still in the frame along with Vervaek, but the Diamond Dozen are 15 seconds apart as we head to Orio. All 165 kilometres of it tomorrow. I am looking forward to tomorrow. I'm looking forward to Arati. I'm looking forward to the time trial. So many surprises in this race. I guess he surprised us so many times it should no longer be so, but Cummings has done it again today.